Call this regular council meeting for Monday, March 4th, 2019 to order. Please turn your cell phones to silence, and I remind my colleagues this is a public meeting, so please do not use your cell phones during the meeting this evening. You will join me in a moment of silence. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Please be seated. Okay. You would read the roll.
Councilmember Clark. Here. Reed. Here. Brown. Lawler.
Here.
Spicer. Here. Williamson.
Here.
And Merritt.
Here. And Councilmember Brown did advise us earlier today that she is ill, is unable to attend this evening. So, first item is approval of the agenda. And if I can confirm that we have an individual here this evening for the Opportunity Atlas presentation. Yes, we do. Great. First item under presentations and recognition, item A, which is oath of office. Officer Gandy is not here this evening. Is that correct? So that's one change we'll vote on. And then the second is under items, pardon me, for individual discussion. Item G, discussion of the City Council Code of Ethics. That was specifically requested by Councilmember Brown. She's not here this evening. I'm not exactly sure what the focus was. So those are the two things that I would suggest we remove from the agenda this evening, if council agrees, again, which is the oath of office for Public Safety Officer Brian Gandy and discussion of the City Council Code of Ethics. Ms. Reed.
I'm sorry, when you got the approval of agenda, I was moving some pages. Can we look on page 2 in the back under City of Albion ordinances in F and G? I think there's some words there that need to be correct.
I'm sorry, where are we at?
We're on page 2.
Okay.
In the back where Albion, City of Albion ordinance.
I think to make corrections to the ordinance, it would be when you do the
Right.
session.
Yeah, so just for the agenda. So if does any council member have any other suggested changes to the agenda this evening? If not, those in favor of approving the agenda with those two deletions, apologize, thank you. Is there a motion to approve the agenda with the two changes? It's been moved, seconded. Okay, all those in favor of approving the agenda with the deletion of the two items say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Agenda is approved with the two changes. Thank you. Okay. First item, under presentations and recognitions. The first is a presentation by Ms. Lanou for Project Rising Tide Action Strategies.
Good evening, Council and Mayor and everyone listening. I am Linda Lanou, the Community Development Fellow here working in Albion on Project Rising Tide, and I was very impressed. I didn't think Chief Kip would get this flyer out to you. This was just created today, and I just got it printed. So if anyone else would like a copy, this is the overview of essentially what the project is seeking to accomplish this year. So there are technical assistance deliverables being provided to our community by a third-party consulting firm called Beckett and Rader, and so those are guaranteed to be delivered. Everything on the back is in progress, working together with a number of entities under the 5 different priority areas that were identified last year by the community and local leaders. So seeing everything that's on the agenda tonight, I didn't really want to take up too much of your time, but I essentially just wanted you all and everyone listening to know that Project Rising Tide is well underway, and I plan to come back and continue to provide updates on all of these things and other projects, because this is just a selection of what we're doing as a community selected for Project Rising Tide. So I just want to highlight those 5 key deliverables the third-party consulting firm is providing. Our Downtown Development Authority will have an updated strategic plan. The last time it was updated was in 2001, and with everything that's going on, it's going to be great to have an up-to-date plan that we're going to be working collectively to include all the recodified tax increment financing and things coming from the state. We will also have a branding strategy that will help with our marketing and promotion. A communications plan is one of the deliverables they will offer. It's not quite clear exactly how that's going to go, but I know it's important for us right now. Our capital improvements plan will also be brought up to speed. That is more current than the rest of our strategic, or not the rest, but more current than the DDA plan was. But it still has to be updated actually every year, so it will be nice to have that brought up to speed. And then we have a dam that the city owns and a couple that the college owns that there are resources to be removed. So having a visioning process around that to ensure the environmental impact is minimized and everyone is prepared for that is another thing they will be offering. And then just for the back, key action strategies under the top 5 priorities, which for anyone who's unfamiliar with Project Rising Tide, those were identified as public infrastructure, workforce development, health and wellness, post-industrial sites, and housing. I am fortunate in this position to be able to work with so many people who are already addressing these issues. So it's exciting coming in and seeing how much has been done and what's all in the works. And I'm continually finding more, which is very encouraging. However, workforce development I see as the biggest challenge that our whole community needs to be aware of and working collectively to address, because the basis of Project Rising Tide is to build an economic framework, and without a strong workforce, it's very hard to attract new employers. According to our comprehensive plan, 42% of our eligible workforce is currently disillusioned and no longer looking for employment. So that means there's a lot of people who need jobs and a lot of people who could be working at potential employers who are looking to come here, but they're giving up. So addressing that is something I want to put on everybody's radar, as I think the number one thing we need to be rallying around and addressing as a whole. And that is essentially all I had. Are there any questions?
I have 2 questions. You said 47%?
42.
42. Okay.
Is in our comprehensive plan.
Okay. And then the second item, you said dam removal. I thought it was still under discussion and consideration whether or not to remove the dams or look at the option of repairing and sustaining them.
Correct, yeah. And
Okay.
my understanding is that there are more resources to remove, so considering all the different things on our capital improvements plan, needing assistance for our public infrastructure, I'm assuming it's like removal is...
Let's don't assume,
Yeah,
please.
you're absolutely right, and that's why we're having a visioning, so
Right,
thank you for
okay.
correcting me.
Okay. And it may absolutely be the right answer in the end, but I've had a variety of people push back and question about the removal, and is it really the only option, and are we really going to do that, and have we looked at so
Thank you.
it's not, total consensus behind doing
Thank you
that.
for not letting me jump the gun.
Well,
I had a question about the housing. So what is the particular focus areas under housing? Is it a certain segment of the community that needs, are we looking at older adult housing? Are we
Right,
low
so
income, market rate?
under, with Project Rising Tide being something for the entire community, it's definitely keeping in mind all the different key aspects that we need to have developed with the Albion Housing Initiative already underway, and there being 60% of our population over 60, that's clearly a top priority within our community. There are also needs for affordable housing, mixed income. I'm not a housing expert, so I can't think of all the different key words, but all of those options are required for our community, especially when we're looking at expanding our population.
Have you been working with the group of citizens that are talking about older adult housing and things like that?
Yes, yeah, I was at the last housing initiative, Albion Housing Initiative meeting, and I've also met with the Calhoun County Land Bank Authority, and we will have representatives from MISTA and MEDC here to discuss the different options that we qualify for.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Councilmember Lawler. I'm sorry.
Thank you, Mayor. I remember the last time that you came to the podium that you said you would go out and seek information from middle to low class to get their input, and I was just wondering, have you done that?
I have not done that. I fully intend for, that's why I put these on here, because I think this is a way of holding me accountable for that, but obviously this work cannot happen with one person. Again, that's why I plan to come back and keep you all informed and work alongside you to do that. I think that all of this information needs to be getting into the hands of every resident, and so I'm also, like I said, there's a lot of projects under works that, I don't want to get too far ahead of myself like I did with the dam removal, but the need to get information into people's hands is critical, and that's, again, why this document is created, and this will be getting out on social media, and there'll be a press release and things like that in the newspaper. But there's other things that need to be getting in people's hands beyond just these projects, like health resources specifically. So doing a citywide canvas is something that's being talked about, and we will definitely be bringing that to your attention as soon as a little bit more plans have formed.
Okay, thank you. Don't forget that I said I would help.
Oh, no, I certainly have not, and there's other ways. Canvassing is nice, but people aren't always home. So, we can go, send out the information in the free newspapers, but I think also just having more opportunities for people to gather, because there's a lot that's happening and people want to be engaged. So that's integral to all of this work, absolutely.
Okay, thank you.
Of course.
Councilmember Spicer, did you have a question?
Yes, quickly. Thank you, Mayor. Hi, Linda.
Hello.
Just quickly, the City of Albion branding, can you share your idea, vision, maybe even direction with regard to the branding?
Of course, yep. So that's an interesting process. There is a guide available from the MEDC because it's a required aspect of redevelopment-ready communities. They typically go hand in hand, the branding and marketing, and we were told that was how the package would come from the technical assistance, but we just found out marketing will be done on our own. So the branding will come from an expert, and essentially, that's again why it's being brought here right now. We want that to be a very inclusive, informed process from everyone who would like to, share. So that will definitely be something you will know the steps. But the guide essentially says, you gather your assets and the different things that your community has to offer, whether it's residents or others wanting to come and visit us, and then you get a key group of stakeholders within the community who have, the design background and, the different things to know what branding looks like. So actually, Mr. Jerome Washington has already reached out to me about this work, and I'm hopeful that him and other artistic people within our community will have an input, or their involvement will be a part of the process.
So nothing has been identified?
No, it's very, very much in the initial phase, but I'm working with the chamber, the EDC, and the city to start assessing what those assets are.
Okay, thank you.
Of course.
Thank you, Ms. Linden.
Yes, thank you.
Appreciate it. I apologize. Next is a presentation by the American Legion on the 100th anniversary.
I'll ask my brothers and sisters of the Legion to please join me. Good evening, folks. My name's Al Smith. I'm the historian for the American Legion here in Albion. I've got a brief presentation I'd like to read for you. To the haunting strains of George M. Cohan's 1917 American battle cry, "Over there," 1,981,701 farmers, factory workers, businessmen, and just plain red-blooded Americans began to answer the call to cross the pond and come to the aid of our European allies in what was to be known as the War to End All Wars. By 1919, the Kaiser and his German army, known to the French as the Boche, were defeated, and the armistice had been signed, and the Great War ended. This left a very large number of Yanks waiting to hear and see the choral refrain of George's song, "We won't come back till it's over, over there." It was time to come home. I'm sorry I get very emotional with this. Here you have it.
In January of 1919, during the waiting period in France, 4 American Expeditionary Force officers gathered to talk over battles fought, wounded, received, and dear friends and comrades lost. These men were Lieutenant Colonel George S. White, Lieutenant Colonel William J. Donovan, Major Eric F. Wood, Lieutenant Colonel Theodore Roosevelt, Jr., the son of the 26th president. The discussion soon turned to what to do after the war. What to do once they were back from over there. A popular subject at the time was the association of all American veterans from the conflicts. Previous wars had organizations of troops. The American Civil War had started with the Grand Army of the Republic and the Union forces and the Union soldiers of the Confederacy for the Southern fighters. Later came the Spanish-American War veterans from that conflict. And so there was the great war vets coming home, marching home. From those humble beginnings, the American Legion was born March 15, 1919. Has long been recognized as the birth of the American Legion. In July of that same year, 15 returning servicemen met at the GIA Hall at 114 East Erie Street to continue the dream of 4 men to sustain the brotherhood of service of all military men of the war to end all wars here at home in Albion, Michigan. American Legion Patrick Leo Hanlon, Post 55 of Albion, has been in continuous service to the community since those early days. Post 55 was the partner with the City of Albion in the building of Victory Park. Through the years, this post has sponsored Boy Scout troops, target shooting clubs, baseball teams, and several other groups to teach Americanism to youth, as well as present awards and ceremonies for Americanism and leadership to members of the local community. We will conduct classes on American flag handling and etiquette. American Legion posts have been the steward of the Memorial Day Parade and celebration from the 50s, when we were handed the reins of the GAR to the present day. Legionnaires, along with the Boy Scouts and community volunteers, take responsibility for placing the American flags on the graves of the fallen heroes at Riverside Cemetery and Memorial Gardens each year to continually honor their sacrifice. The Legion nationally and locally honors numerous memberships and programs to our upcoming leaders in their junior and senior years of high school, commonly called Boy State and Girl State. Above all, your American Legion Post 55 of Albion is a Veterans Helping Veterans Service organization. Our continuing goal is to help and to provide guidance to all veterans and their families, because no service person sacrifices alone. To be certain they are cared for as they were promised when they signed the blank check to the American people, and an amount up to and including their lives. Thank you.
Proclamation recognizing March 2019 as American Legion's Centennial Anniversary Month in Albion. Whereas the American Legion was initially organized on 15 March 2019 at a caucus meeting of sailors and soldiers in Paris, France, and whereas the American Legion has been a staunch advocate for veterans and their families since 1919, forever lobbying for better care and support for all veterans and their families, and whereas throughout the past 10 decades, the American Legion has been a beacon of hope and support for all past and present playing a leading role in initiatives and advances that have affected the lives of Americans in every community, from the U.S. Flag Code to the GI Bill, and improved services by the Veterans Administration. And whereas Post 55 has fulfilled the Legion's mission since 1919 through various programs and activities which strengthen our community, such as Boys and Girls State Summer Leadership Programs, Boy Scouts of America, various academic scholarship programs, and whereas 2019 marks the official 100th anniversary of both the American Legion National Organization and the City of Albion's own Patrick Leo Hanlon American Legion Post 55. Now, therefore, I, Dave Atchison, Mayor of Albion, do hereby proclaim March 2019 as American Legion's centennial anniversary month in the City of Albion. In witness whereof, I have you to set my hand and cause this to be affixed, the official seal of Albion, Michigan, on this 4th day of March in the year of 2019.
Yeah. I was up clapping.
It's a big one.
Thank you all for your service. Next is presentation, Expanding Healthcare Services in Albion by Oaklawn Pace Clinic and the Calhoun County Health Department. Mr. Lindsay.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, City Council members. It's a pleasure to be here this evening. Richard Lindsay, I'm the Executive Director of Legal Community Affairs at Oaklawn. All right. I'm very pleased to say that our clinic that I've come and talked to you a couple times about opened on February 11th. In the first 3 weeks, we had 81 patients in the first week, second week 115 patients, and the third week we had 88 patients. So this is just in the express care, so this is a new piece of healthcare that's being provided in Albion. So we're averaging about 16 patients a day. So again, if you do the math, this would be 4,992 visits that would happen this year, which again this is all new expansion of healthcare options in Albion. And so the clinic had not actually closed yet. The Albion College Clinic had not closed, so we expect to have that. You a little closer? I sit at home and watch you guys and go, I wish you'd speak into the microphone.
We're trying.
Thank you. I'll try as well. Again, with the addition of the Albion College students, we expect that will jump up another significant amount. We have capacity for about 40 visits a day, so there's a big gap between almost 5,000 visits and up to 12,000 visits, so we're really excited about what that looks like for Albion. So one of the questions we've had is what community outreach do we do to try to inform about the availability of this service? We've kind of done the standard things that we would do as part of a marketing program, and really what we want to do, the next step is to figure out how to have community outreach. So Nikhil Patel is a Vista that's been assigned to us, and he's working specifically on this issue and try to identify different ways in the community to do that. We've had 2 meetings already to try to identify some different ideas. Just some examples, we have door-to-door communications in the neighborhood, and Councilmember Lawler's already done some of that already, and which will, I'm sure, help us going forward. We're talking about presentations at different sites around the city, including Crowell School and the Charles Snyder Building. We're going to support health fairs, support community events in Albion. We're going to do mailings to specified areas. One of the things we can do, and you'll see Politicians do this more than any other, but you can very specifically target where you send things by street. And so part of what we want to do is identify parts of Albion that we can send specific communications to. We also want to do outreach through churches and church bulletins and presentations. And actually, Vivian Davis has already started working on some of those ideas with us. Fork Senior Center is something we've already had communications at that location, and we'll continue to do that. Boehm Theater is one that's another great place for an ad that we are developing a new one relative to Express Care. And so we're looking for other ideas. There is a presentation later on in the agenda today about the Opportunity Atlas. And so part of what we want to do is look at this. Calhoun County has something that's the same idea as our Opportunity Atlas. It's called the My Calhoun. And it basically takes a lot of different factors, social determinants of health, and puts them into a software program. And then you can determine by locations on a map which areas are underserved, which areas aren't. And so we want to try to do that same thing with our Express Care. So the idea is that we will plot out on a map the different locations and where we are reaching people, where we aren't. And then the places where we aren't reaching people, we will do additional outreach into those areas. So we're excited about that. We haven't really done anything like this before. We just kind of been across the board on marketing. So we're excited about the opportunity to do that here in Albion. Some other things that are upcoming, Senior Care Partners PACE program. So a PACE program is the program for all-inclusive care for the elderly. Our location on B Drive North, I think I talked to you and told you that I thought this was going to happen, and the agreement's now been signed. So they are going to start at the beginning of April a $1.5 million expansion of that facility to add senior services for up to 70 different patients. I think they call them participants, not patients. Thank you, Councilmember Williamson. There was a press release this weekend about our agreement with the Fountain Clinic. So the Fountain Clinic is a free clinic in Marshall. They're going to offer 2 4-hour blocks a month at our clinic. So it'll essentially be, you'll be able to go in if you are uninsured or underinsured, and you'll be able to have services there that are going to be provided by our physicians that are basically going to be volunteering during those times. So really, we want to be able to offer services for everybody in Albion, regardless of ability to pay or insurance or anything else. We will find a way to take care of you. And the other thing I want to mention is we're also going to make increased use of healthcare navigators. So we have care managers in our offices, and they're mainly involved with coordinating care, but they don't make the connections always with the social needs in the community. So again, you were talking about when your next appointment's going to be, then it may be that you have a hole in your roof and you need to have assistance for community action to be able to do repairs to your roof, your taxes haven't been paid. There could be any number of things that we can connect you through a care navigator with somebody, appropriate care in the community. So we're very excited about that. And I want to mention one other thing. We have purchased a number of different pieces of diagnostic equipment as part of this grant. We had a $200,000 grant from the state to be able to buy diagnostic equipment. So we are buying things like an OB Doppler, OB ultrasound. We're talking about we're going to buy an orthopedic ultrasound. So we'll start to offer orthopedic services in Albion. The X-ray machine has already been installed, and that's being used. And basically have a whole bunch of different options. And we are very excited on what's happening, and we are also collaborating with the health departments and the things they're doing. So I'm going to turn this over to Bridget Reckenbaugh.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Bridget Reckenbaugh. I'm the Deputy Health Officer at the Calhoun County Public Health Department. So as Richard said, we back in June of 2015, we moved our health department over to West Michigan, across from Big B Coffee. And in that time, our intention was to be able to better serve the community, which has resulted in an increased number of clients and services we provided. Currently, we provide immunizations, STD testing and treatment, HIV testing and counseling, WIC services, TB testing, pregnancy testing. But I'm happy to announce that we will be bringing family planning to the Albion Clinic and Battle Creek Clinic as well. That service will be expanded and open as soon as a practitioner is recruited, which I think we're pretty close to having somebody on board. She's the practitioner. She currently works for the VA, but she's very committed. She's an Albion College grad. She currently lives in Matawan, but is really interested in coming back to the Albion community and serving the community. So hopefully within maybe 60 to 90 days, if not before then. Part of that is there's been a demonstrated need for family planning services since the absence of Planned Parenthood, both here in Albion and in Calhoun County altogether. But I do want to assure everyone that we will not be providing, nor can we provide, abortions due to the funding. We receive Title X funding from the state, so that we will not be doing any abortion services. So, and then in one of the things we're partnering with Oakland as well is the Senior Hearing and Vision Program, hoping to provide or bring a provider to this area in order to serve the senior community with the senior hearing and vision services offered through senior millage. So.
Do you have a question?
Pardon me?
Are you able to take questions?
Sure.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to meet you this evening. Having had worked at Planned Parenthood of Michigan, I'm really excited that you are bringing family planning services here, understanding that you aren't able to provide pregnancy termination. I did want to know, around the counseling related to abortion services, are you able to refer and counsel women on their options when they present as pregnant? What are the rules at your particular clinic?
Through family planning and through Title X funding, we are allowed to offer different types of pregnancy prevention. As far as abortion counseling, we can refer them to a provider.
You can.
But we can refer them, but that's
the extent.
yes. Yep.
Councilmember Lawler.
Thank you, Mayor. Being in a precinct that has elderly and disabled residents, how would I get the information out to them to say that you provide these special care services for them?
Alongside with what Richard had said for Oakland, we are in the process with our county communications manager and internally in the health department of developing and expanding our communications process. We hoping to not only develop flyers, specific mailings. Through several meetings, we will get our information out to insurance agencies, businesses, barbers somebody had recommended, but also, for example, our lead testing program, when a child tests positive for lead or high lead levels, we have a community health worker that will go out to the home to provide resources. So while they're there, we will also do additional outreach to inform communities of our services. And as we've done in the past, we've had a couple of our nurses go out to some of the lower income housing and go door to door trying to do immunizations. Some are receptive to that, some not so much. But we will continue to do that as well.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Anything else? Yes.
Okay.
Just to piggyback on what she was asking, it would probably be a good idea to contact some of the local churches, because a lot of the pastors and things, for the members that aren't able to get out, go to their homes and, have communion or whatever, but that would be an easy way to get that out.
I had attended a meeting last Monday, and I can't remember the gentleman's name, Richard may have it, who is going to, yes, give us the list of all the churches in this community that we will be able to reach out to as well.
Yeah, Nikhil Patel that I mentioned before has actually put that together, so we're developing inserts for church bulletins, and then extending the opportunity to say, we'll come and talk, we'll meet with whoever. We both, I think, realize that our agencies haven't always communicated as well as we could, so part of it is that we need you to tell us how best to do this, so that's part of why we're here tonight. We appreciate any thoughts you have.
I was going to ask one final thing about the maternal infant. What type of relationship do you guys have with the maternal infant health programs in the area?
Well, we currently have we operate a nurse-family partnership program. It's operated out of Battle Creek, but we do serve the entire community.
Councilman Laughlin?
Thank you, Mayor. I think I mentioned once before about the PACE program, and maybe Mr. Lindsay can help me with it or reiterate. I might have missed it. I have visited a community in Detroit called the Tome Community, Retirement Community. A beautiful place, very lovely. They have transportation. What will PACE be doing for transportation for its clients?
So PACE provides transportation services through Life Care for all of their customers. And so they will actually have, they will be coming over from Battle Creek in the morning. The vans will be coming over, and then they'll be picking up people and bringing them into the center. So it's a comprehensive program. I mean, part of what I've talked to, I forget who I've talked to, but this is a managed care program, and it's really cool how it's set up, because essentially it's taking an allowance that you get from the federal government to be able to be in a nursing home, and it's giving that a little bit less than that amount to the PACE program to be able to essentially manage the care of these individuals. And what they're trying to do is have them stay in their homes, so it's actually less expensive care for the government to pay for, and it's better care in that you get to stay home and have a very specific care program as opposed to being in a nursing home. And one of the things I think Mr. Williams will also attest to is that we don't have enough nursing homes to basically care for people as people age. And so this is going to have to be a way of dealing with people. And I've enjoyed saying also that the PACE program looked at being in Marshall. They didn't want to be in Marshall. They wanted to be in Albion. So it's very exciting to have them on the east side of the county. And I'm working with Ms. Ferraro to get her over here. We had a date and it snowed or something came up. But we'll get her over here and she'll go into a lot more detail about the program. It's very, very exciting.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Miller.
I have just one more thing. So I want to mention, I think about 4 years ago, I had Lynn Reed came to the Firekeepers Local Revenue Sharing Board and made a fantastic presentation along with some school kids and just a really cool thing about Holland Park. And I hadn't heard of Holland Park before. And so I became a big fan of Holland Park. And so my understanding is that you're working on the all right. Can you come up for a second? I want to present you with something. So we are excited. Part of what I wanted to talk about with Oakland is we want to make a bigger impact in this community. So I am pleased to present you with this check for that project. So I want to say
Not
quite that much.
No, but thank you so
You're
much.
welcome.
Thank you, Mr. Lindsay. And Ms. Rickenbacker. Okay. And have you caught your breath yet, Ms. Reed? Okay. Well, that's pretty hard to top, but one of the most popular things on YouTube's are kitties. So with that, I'll invite Ms. Stanzik to come forward and give us a presentation on Friends of Albion Animals.
Yes, and I have several members of the group here tonight. Some of them in our top of choice. I was coming directly from work, so I apologize. And I apologize for the water. I'm actually recovering from laryngitis, so if I suddenly become Minnie Mouse, you have my apologies. I'm trying to be very respectful of everyone's time tonight, but there's a lot of misunderstanding and misinformation that's being shared in the community, a lot of misunderstanding about what our group is. So I've prepared a presentation, and if we can take it, yes, thank you, into slideshow mode, please. Go over to the right on the top. Oh, that'll do it. There we go. So, Friends of Albion's Animals. So just a basic history of Friends of Albion's Animals. There is only one council person actually still on council that was here when the ordinance was originally passed. In September or late fall of 2013, City Council began considering ordinance to forbid residents from feeding feral cats. This stemmed from concerns by citizens regarding health and safety, property damage, threats to other wildlife, specifically songbirds, by free-roaming cats. May 2014, City Council adopted Ordinance 2014-1, which prohibits residents from knowingly feeding animals they do not own with a penalty of up to $500 fines and or 90 days in jail. The only exceptions are those who are feeding animal with permission of their owner, are feeding birds with a bird feeder, or if they are participating in the city-approved trap, neuter, release program. On May 5th, 2014, we were originally officially recognized as the city-approved TNR organization. And I'm going to be reading some of this out loud, not all of it. Council does have a copy of the presentation in front of them, but for the benefit of the audience here. In 2017, we reincorporated as an official 501c3 nonprofit organization, and today we're a grassroots, very small group of dedicated volunteers working to try and humanely manage the population of free-roaming cats in Albion through colony management and promoting responsible pet ownership. So there's some basic vocabulary that a lot of people are missing. There's three.
If we could hit the highlights, because we have
I
3 pages. And
So there's 3 different kinds of free-roaming cats that you may be aware of. One of them is feral. These are the ones born in the wild. They want nothing to do with humans. These are the ones who will look at you from a distance and never come up to you. The next one are strays, which may be cats that have gotten out, or they may be indoor-outdoor cats that have developed a wider territory. And then there is the largest chunk of what we deal with, which is abandoned, discarded, dumped, domesticated cats. These are the ones that will come up to you. These are the ones that will come to try and come into your home. These are the ones that will come to you crying because they have been abandoned and dumped. So these are ones that are very often unaltered. They're not spayed or neutered, which means they're fertile, and they're very likely unvaccinated. This is the biggest challenge we have in Albion. Colony management. We'll kind of skip this. We do the 2 parts of it. Basically, we try to humanely manage the population of free-roaming cats in Albion by keeping the population as low as possible, knowing that the majority of cats that end up free-roaming are these abandoned cats. We're working with owners to try and spay, neuter, and vaccinate their own cats. So if something should happen, 1, we're not dealing with unwanted litters. They're more likely to keep them in the house and not abandon them. But 2, if they get out, they're not going to contribute to population growth and disease transmission. So, there's been a lot of questions, and it's come up at City Council a couple of times in the minutes, the question of Union Steel. So, a lot of people are aware of Union Steel. It was probably the primary colony that people were concerned about. The reality is Union Steel is one of about 16 colonies in the greater Albion area, as of last count. We define colony as at least 4 cats living together within a defined territory. So, of the original colony cats at Union Steel, there are only 3 remaining. They are vaccinated and they are altered. The problem is dumping cats. This is actually illegal under both county and state law, but it's not being addressed because of lack of resources. So we are fully prepared to take those cats out of Union Steel before the factory comes down, which I understand will be spring or summer of this year, is my understanding. It's up in the air. But the problem is if we take them out too soon, we will experience what's called the vacuum effect, which is they are currently holding territory against other cats. If we take them out, other cats, very likely unvaccinated, unaltered cats, will move in and we will have the same problem we started with. So in 2018 alone, we had 18 cats abandoned there and a pet mouse, of all things, taped into a paper towel roll and left to be eaten by the cats. Some of the kittens were as young as 2 weeks old. So they are not capable of surviving in general in the wild, but also especially these were during the harshest weather conditions. So this is why we work with owners. So population growth in cats is exponential. There's more information in here. I have a copy of this presentation if anyone would like it. There's a lot of theories and arguments going out about how many cats can come from one unaltered female. In 5 years, assuming 2 litters a year, 12 kittens a year, assuming a certain number of them survive injury, illness, or deliberate human cruelty, survive the weaning process, and the ones that aren't caught and spayed, which is about 35%, One breeding female at the end of year 5 years, we're talking about 442 kittens, 205 of which are female, plus the original 43. You can see the scope of the problem that we're dealing with. So there's a lot of common myths. Basically, you cannot catch and kill. You cannot just make them leave because then you experience the vacuum effect. The common myth we also encounter is Friends of Albion's Animals is funded by the city. We're not. We don't get a dime from the city of Albion. We have a shelter. No, we don't. We are a small group of volunteers that can occasionally foster animals in our own home. To tell you the truth, I'm president, have been for 2 years now. I'm not a cat person, but you know what? I've got 4 foster cats at home and probably another one coming this week. Domestic house cats can survive and thrive in the wild. No, they can't, and it is illegal to dump them. Feral cats are a threat to wildlife. True and false. They're good hunters, but they're lazy. They're actually more scavengers than they are hunters. Chances are what they're really going for is mice, rats, and insects, especially in the summertime. We have a lot to thank these cats for, especially with the number of derelict buildings that we have in the community. So we are doing the best we can with no official funding. It's all donors and grants. We actually have a grant out to the Community Foundation right now to institute a low-cost spay-neuter program in the community. But we need supporters, we need members, we need donors, we need those who are willing to and able to foster. We need to be contacted by people who are looking to adopt. In 2018, we helped spay, neuter, and vaccinate 159 cats, of which 65 were colony cats. And we spent every dollar we took in, and more so. We spent $13,000 last year, and actually the biggest chunk was on emergency medical care for animals that had been injured due to deliberate human cruelty. We have one currently in foster named Fluffernutter who has a bullet in him. So if you're wondering how you can help us, we happily take pop bottle receipts. We are one of the many agencies in town accepting receipts for the family fair. We happily take donations of food and kitty litter and all of that. If you're an Amazon, if you purchase Amazon, you can designate Friends of Albion's Animals as the charity. They will send 0.5% of any of your purchases to us as a donation. And frankly, we're just helping to try and get the word out there. And if we are awarded our grant, we will have that low-cost spay-neuter available, but we don't know yet. So we also this Saturday have a Think Spring salad luncheon. We understand that it is the 3rd food event this week between, Shrove Tuesday pancakes and the Friday fish fry, both of which are lovely if you've never been. But we are encouraging you to Think Spring and come have some salad with us. And other than that, I pared it down from 13 minutes. I did my best. But there's a lot of information in here.
I think you trimmed a minute.
Yep, and I also gave all of council a copy of this. This is from Alley Cat Allies, who pioneered the TNR program, and this is a guide for municipal leaders on feral cats. So, if there's any questions for me? Yes?
How are you going to work with the land bank when they start to take down units to it?
So the 3 cats that are there are very well familiar to us. They will come to us because we've been supplement feeding them for so long. We can live trap them. And then we have a couple of people who are standing by to take them in as barn cats. Feral cats, if they can be rehabilitated, are very popular barn cats because they're already used to catching their own food. And so they would have to be isolated for a period of time to help them redefine their new territory. But we're ready. If we take them out now, we're going to end up with more cats in there that we don't have that kind of relationship with. Okay. Okay. Okay, sorry.
All right. This is this Saturday, the 9th of March. So this is a proclamation. It's on. Proclamation recognizing March 9th, 2019 as Friends of Albion Animals Day. Whereas the Friends of Albion's Animals is a 501c3 nonprofit charitable organization established in 2014 to reduce the number of feral cats in Albion through the Humane Trap, Neuter, and Return program, which is advocated by the Michigan Humane Society of the United States, Michigan Humane Society and the Humane Society of the United States. And whereas the Trap, Neuter, and Return is a program in which free-roaming outdoor cats are humanely trapped, spayed or neutered, vaccinated, ear-tipped, and returned to the location where they were found. And whereas TNR is endorsed by the American Society for the Prevention of Cruelty to Animals as the most humane, effective, and financially sustainable strategy for stabilizing and eventually reducing free-roaming cat populations. And whereas left unsterilized, feral cats and their offspring continue to reproduce, potentially introducing thousands of unwanted cats into our community and posing an elevated risk to Albion's domesticated pets from various illnesses borne by feral cats. And whereas the Friends of Albion Animals serve to assist low-income residents to spay and neuter and vaccinate their cats for rabies and advocate for responsible pet ownership in the greater Albion area. And whereas the Friends of Albion's Animals is holding a luncheon fundraiser on Saturday, March 9th at the American Legion to cover the cost of veterinarian services provided by local area vets and to purchase much-needed supplies to feed and humanely care for abandoned cats. Now, therefore, I, Dave Atchison, Mayor of Albion, do hereby proclaim March 9th, 2019 as Friends of Albion's Animal Day in the city of Albion and urge all residents of Albion to support the luncheon and this group. Next, we have a presentation by Ms. Audrey Dean for the Kids and Stuff Children's Museum's 16th anniversary. Ms. Dean.
Thank you, Mayor Atchison, Council, and our community who are in attendance tonight. Thank you for recognizing the achievement that is 16 years serving the community of Albion. When Becky Mitchell proposed the idea of a children's museum here, most would have told her she was nuts. But Albion has this can-do and will-do attitude. And that's what makes this 16th year of operation possible. The community has kept us going because we can all agree that the children of this community are worth enough and loved enough to keep a quality children's museum thriving in our downtown. Since opening our doors, it is estimated that Kids and Stuff has welcomed, ready for this? 250,000 people to a safe, enriching environment where families can enjoy quality time together. We are one of the biggest draws to downtown, and we served 17,700 people from other communities in 2018 alone. We continue to grow our programs, this year adding STEM curriculum developed by NASA, arts and cultural programs featuring local talents, and just good old-fashioned fun. We invite all assembled or following along online to join us celebrating our Sweet 16 celebration on March 23rd at a huge party at the museum. Tickets can be purchased online or at the museum, and we'll be raffling off a 7-night stay in Las Vegas, plus $500 toward airfare, thanks to a generous sponsorship from the Greater Albion Chamber of Commerce and from a remarkable Kids and Stuff board member. We invite you all to come enjoy local food, wine, Albion malleable beer, cake from Foundry Bakehouse, and a really fun night of just being a kid again. So again, thank you for this proclamation, and thank you all, thank you Albion, for believing in the power of play and in Kids and Stuff.
Okay. Proclamation recognizing March 23rd, 2019 as Kids and Stuff Children's Museum Day. Whereas Albion is home to the amazing Kids and Stuff Children's Museum, which provides fun, hands-on learning experiences for all children and families through interactive exhibits. And whereas children's museums help children develop essential foundational skills, and whereas children's museums light a creative spark for discovery and lifelong learning, and whereas children's museums are uniquely positioned to help reverse stigma and discrimination, and whereas children's museums strengthen community resources that educate and care for children, and whereas Kids and Stuff strives to include creative outlets for all types of voices because not all communication is verbal. Some children speak using art, music, dramatic play, and movement. And whereas on the fourth Thursday of every month, Kids and Stuff extends closing to 7 p.m. and offers free admission to all. And whereas the Kids and Stuff Children's Museum is celebrating their 16th anniversary on Saturday, the 23rd of March. Now, therefore, I, Dave Atchison, Mayor of Albion, do hereby proclaim March 23rd, 2019 as Kids and Stuff Children's Museum Day in the city of Albion and urge all residents of Albion to support this treasured resource in our community. In witness whereof I have hereunto set my hand and caused the seal of this city to be affixed. Next is a presentation on Opportunity Atlas.
My name is Mac Robertson. I'm a junior at Albion College. I was asked by Sonia to come speak on an article I wrote for the Albion Pleiad about a new research finding from the Opportunity Atlas. So this is my first time at a city council meeting, so I did have a picture of the Opportunity Atlas, but didn't realize I needed to get that to you. So this research was looking at past tax and census data to understand people's upward mobility in America and see which areas are giving children the best chance to achieve the American dream. And so looking at Albion, I thought it was pretty startling to me that north of downtown, kids are predicted to earn about $24,000 a year for salary once they grow up. And then south of downtown, children are predicted to be about $40,000 annual income. So I was really interested with how there could be such a difference between, even just in a city, between city lines within a block. So this Opportunity Atlas, it's all over America. You can look at any place and look at kids, how like their chance for upward mobility. So some problems that they're finding with this research are families are just being unable to give their children ample opportunities for success. So this can include no access to healthcare facilities, no programs for children after school. So a lot of kids will sit around bored when their parents come home from work. So some solutions that are happening. So the rising tide that was spoke earlier, that the affordable housing that they're doing, I think that's a really awesome plan for them to get that going, to give families a place to live, because that can be hard sometimes. And then also something that Albion's doing really well is the Oak Lawn facility as well, giving people access to health care, because it used to be that you have to go to Jackson or Battle Creek to get a place for health care, but now that it's downtown, it will help families get there, and if they can't make it during like the work times or they don't have transportation, that can get them there as well. Another way would be programs held after school and libraries, and also connecting the college and the community as well. So the researchers are also released Opportunity Insights as well. This is another website that is helping cities find ways to give each family an opportunity at success. So they actually went into Detroit and they pinpointed certain areas where families need more help, and they're helping local policymakers figure out what decisions can be made to help the city reach their full potential. So I think there's a lot of good things going on in Albion right now, trending in the right direction to make sure that each child has the greatest opportunity to reach their potential.
Okay. Councilmember Lawler.
Thank you, Mayor. So how did you get the data to the two differences between like the pay raise, the 24, 25 versus the 40?
So the Opportunity Atlas, it's basically like a Google map. It's opportunityatlas.org. You can visit it. So you go in there and you can search up any city in America, and it goes in there, and they used past tax and census data. So they followed, I think, 20 million children from 1978 to 1983, all the way through. They're now adults now. They followed them to see which ones had the greatest chance at success and who didn't. And so they're also using census data currently as well to be able to predict which children have the opportunity for success and which children do not as well.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. We have a public hearing on the closeout of the Peabody project. Who's making that presentation?
Yes, I am.
Okay.
Our deputy clerk, treasurer, Haley Snyder couldn't make it tonight. She was going to do this presentation, so I'll read what she left me here. The Community Development Block Grant provided funding to assist in the Peabody Building, a commercial Italianate, 3-story, flat-roofed, painted brick building built in 1852 and is located in historic downtown Albion at the intersection of Superior Street and East Erie, or Erie Street, I should say. It is one of the oldest buildings in downtown Albion. Bill and Karen Dobbins purchased the building and saw an opportunity to redevelop this historic building into a multi-use residential and commercial end-use property, adding to the revitalization of downtown Albion. The redevelopment will feature a 3,000 square foot white box commercial space on the first floor. The space will allow for 1 or 2 commercial clients. The second and third floors have two-bedroom, 2-bathroom apartments on each floor for a total of 4 apartments. An elevator has been added as part of the redevelopment. Community Development Block Grant project benefited at least 51% low to moderate income persons. 0 persons were displaced as a result of the project, and it eliminated the blight of the building. The total cost of the project is $1,831,220.91. $828,800 Community Development Block Grant dollars were used, and $2,420.91 of private match. The building is located at 400 South Superior Street.
Thank you. I'm not sure if the EDC had someone here that was going to address it. They had indicated they might, because I think there was, on the checklist that went through, there was a couple of different categories, one of which was the 51% low to moderate income, and I was told that that did not apply to this, but perhaps it did. So, okay. Public comments. Do we have public comments for this portion of the public hearing on the Peabody building? Okay. If not, then may I have a motion to go into closed session?
So
Unless I've missed something. I just did public comments, I thought.
You did a public hearing.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. Okay, so if there's no other comments from council or the public, we'll close the public hearing on the Peabody. And we'll go into the public comment session for items on the agenda. Do you have comments this evening on agenda items? Okay.
Been a while, but I think I'm to introduce myself. I'm LaRose J. Bradley. I live at 312 Arthur Street here in Albion, Michigan, and I am a commissioner for the Albion Housing Commission. I was notified today that we were on the agenda, and we had a couple of questions I'd like to ask. Number one, let's see. Request approval resolution 201907 to designate a city council liaison to the Housing Commission. We would not have been here except we've been here before. I apologize to the commissioners, the fact that I didn't have time to get that a little more fancier than it is. But I wanted you to know from whence I come and rules and regulations under which we operate. We are told by HUD our rules and regulations. The Housing Commission Board only establishes policy and procedure. We hire an executive director to implement them, and we back her. We have done fairly well down through the years. Now, there has been some difficulty with City Hall in terms of politics and politicians. That is why I had that copied out, so you would understand from whence we come. I'm not opposed to basically any of the suggestions if it's going to benefit the community and the people that reside in Albion's public housing. I will read this because time is late and you don't have time for a whole lot of who shot John. On there on page 24. Well, first of all, let me do this. I got 3 minutes. I represent 220 families. We have 220 units. Housing Commission is regulated by HUD, and they want us to maintain a 97% occupancy. This morning before I left, I asked Ann what was our rate. She said we're at 99. So we have no problem with HUD in terms of that. Let me see, I got to see my notes here. We have so many rules and regulations and audits that we have to abide by every year. We have federal auditors to come in to regulate how we spent the money. Did we do it right? Is it in accordance to line items and all of that good stuff? And it's been a pleasure to serve on this board for a number of years. I am a retired executive director. Mr. Jim Arnett also serves on this board. He is a retired executive director. And we have 3 or 4 other directors that are specifically connected to the Housing Commission. And we have done an excellent job. It would be difficult to promote the city of Albion and Albion College if every time you picked up the paper there was a stabbing, a shooting, a drug raid, a killing. People would not want to come here. The Housing Commission has done an excellent job in what it has been designated to do. And sometimes we come down here and it's almost like we do nothing, and there is no compensation. You do this because you live here and you want to see this city thrive. Now, I will make this short. On your papers there, page 23, this is what we are taught by the HUD organization and when we attend conferences. It said, once established, an independent agency, the Housing Commission is autonomous. Cooperation and coordination with local government are helpful and often necessary. But the chief elected official cannot direct the affairs of the board or the actions of its members, except in cases where the housing authority is part of local government. Housing board activities are conducted independently. Housing boards are designated to operate independently, largely for protection from shifting political winds. We don't have shifting political winds down here. We have political tornadoes.
Okay, Ms. Bradley, you're about a minute over.
And
So if you can wrap it up, please.
I will end it with this because there'll be some questions, and I wasn't here to create any. We just want to know what is the purpose of the liaison officer, since they have no authority in voting or public opinion on the board. What is the purpose? We've been through this, and I have to say about Mayor Joe Domingo. Last time we had difficulty.
Ms. Brett, you're almost 2 minutes over.
Oh, I thought I had 3.
Right, so you're now at 4 minutes and 50 seconds. The red means you're over by that much.
You talk fast.
Yeah,
Let me read this and I'll be through.
Ma'am, if you could just provide us the written questions, we'll get you the answers back.
Okay.
Okay.
We would like to know what is the purpose of the liaison officer if they have no voting ability. Okay. And you are invited. Last time we had a meeting, a lot of you came. We were glad to have you. But we need to know what's going on and if there's any hidden agendas as to why you want to put a liaison officer on the board of commissioners for the Albion Housing Commission.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Are there further public comments this evening on agenda items? Okay, if not, we will, if I can have, Mr. Brown, please come forward.
A couple things. Be very quick, the meeting's really long. 3 things. I want to thank, it's McLean? Okay. Yeah, the presentation, because I saw that article as well. And you really have to look at that on the Albion Pleiad because the map is actually quite startling. Albion has 4 census tracts, basically like quadrants, and practically the whole western side of the town is in a deep red. And only the lower southeast portion of the town is like on a lighter yellow. And I think that that's very startling, and that's something that, again, the city really has to make sure that our policy is in line with rectifying that disparity. One of the things that happened under the new tax law from the federal is these things called opportunity zones. And basically the city could select one of those 4 census tracts. And we ended up selecting the census tracts with the least amount of disparity among the 4 census tracts. And so we have to make sure that we're looking at policy to make sure that the tools that the state and federal government are giving us to combat poverty and just bad life outcomes are matching what they're meant to be used for. Two things. Okay. The interim manager thing. I just want to remind the council, I believe I heard the labor attorney speak at the last meeting about her recommendation about selecting an external candidate. So I encourage council to look into that. And I know there's a resolution 2017-7, which basically is a city policy that all positions are supposed to be posted for 5 days. And so hopefully we follow that policy. And then finally, relative to the Housing Commission situation, I was on council when that happened. I think initially Councilmember Barnes he had some concerns. He asked for council to create that role. Council did. It's a non-voting liaison position. I do believe that Attorney Harkness last year or earlier this year, I can't remember, it must have been last year actually, wrote a memo to council describing the proper role or relations between the city and the Housing Commission and the federal HUD and how those all mixed. The Housing Commission is a body that the state allows the cities to establish, but HUD comes in because once the Housing Commission receives money from HUD, there's certain kind of requirements they're required to follow. So I think that would be helpful in explaining some of what the connection is between the powers of the city, the Housing Commission, and HUD. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Brown. Are there any further public comments this evening? If not, if I can have a motion to go to the next item, which is closed session. The city attorney requests a closed session under the Opens Meeting Act.
So moved.
Is there support? Thank you. All those in favor, roll call vote, please.
Councilmember Clark. Reed.
Yes.
Lawler.
Yes.
Spicer.
Yes.
Williamson.
Yes.
And Mayor Atchison.
Yes. Turn to closed session. And we'll let Mr. Meek know that he's present in the question for this first one. Yeah. Okay.
Yes. How you doing? How's the family? Okay. The mama told me. Yes. Yeah, I have to work. I do.
Because we didn't ask no question. We're moving.
I'm staying for a little while.
No question, no comment.
Huh?
You know, my daddy.
You thought I didn't work? Couple people thought I didn't work. Good night. I gotta work.
I gotta find my agenda again. Where are we here? Here we are. Okay, public hearing. Okay, close session. Okay, as soon as we get everybody in here, we'll get going. Okay.
Well, I
Oh,
chose
Christ,
third.
okay. Support my language.
But I like second because I don't like to get up early and all the kids be asleep by the time.
You all are great troopers, and I commend you. Okay, we got everybody. I think we got everybody. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, call this to order. Please read the roll.
Councilmember Clark.
Here.
Reed. Lawler.
Here.
Spicer.
Here.
Williamson.
Here.
And Mayor Atchison.
Here. Okay, next item on the calendar is the consent calendar to approve regular session minutes for February 19th, special session minutes the 21st of February, the assembly permit for New Hope Worship Center community event held at Victory Park on the 22nd of June, the assembly permit for Irwin Avenue Animal Hospital held at Victory Park on the 18th of May, assembly permit for Larry LeBon Disc Golf Course held at Victory Park on the 6th of April, and assembly permit for the Sister City French Market held at Stouffer Plaza on the 15th of June. Okay. May I have a motion to approve all items on the consent calendar?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Moved in second. Is there any discussion?
Nope.
Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, items A through F on the consent calendar have been approved. Items for individual discussion. First item, discussion / action for city manager contract. Is there a motion?
So move.
No, what is the motion? We're going to, we need a motion as to what we're going to do.
Oh, I thought we was having a discussion.
Yes, a motion. Would someone like to make a motion?
She motioned.
And your motion is to?
For the discussion.
Okay. Councilmember Williamson, do you want to make a course of action? I will make one unless you'd rather.
No, I don't want to make a motion.
Okay. My motion is for, what's the proper term? Discharge for breach of contract. That's my motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay. Now we have discussion. So, I know there's some discussion. Okay.
Mayor.
Yes, I'm sorry. Councilmember Lawler.
Thank you, Mayor. Can, is our attorney able to speak to what his recommendation may be with this, or no?
So what I can offer to you is that obviously we had extensive discussions in closed session. You've been provided with the opinion of both myself and our labor attorney, Ms. Chelsea Ditz. Our recommendation would obviously be to follow that recommendation for the reasons that we discussed in closed session.
To be fair, you gave us multiple recommendations, and they were kind of ranked in order, correct?
We would recommend that it be our suggestion then, I guess, in terms of action that you take tonight to table this matter to your next meeting in March.
Okay, so there is a motion, and I guess another motion could be made to table the matter. Otherwise, the motion that's before the council is to discharge for breach of contract. Does somebody want to make a motion to table the matter? Councilmember Spicer's made a motion to table this matter. Is it seconded?
Second.
Okay. Is there any further discussion? All those in favor of tabling this matter, since the significance of this, would you do the roll call vote, please?
Councilmember Clark,
Yes.
Reed,
Yes.
Lawler,
Yes.
Spicer,
Yes.
Williamson,
No.
and Mayor Atchison.
No. Okay. The motion to table passes, so we will table this until a future meeting. Okay. Next item, discussion action interim city manager. Is there a motion
So moved.
to,
To have the discussion.
okay. So if, all right, we'll say there's is there a motion to assign an interim city manager? Councilmember Spicer.
Thank you. I would like to motion that we consider posting the city manager position per an ordinance that council adopted some time ago, before we would select an interim city manager.
We might want to consider just tabling this one as well until a decision is made on the current city manager. But Councilmember Reed, did you have something you want to comment?
We can just, will that?
City Attorney Hartness.
Sorry.
So since action item A was tabled, I would recommend that you table action item B until your next regular council meeting, so you can act on action item A.
So is there a motion to table any action on assigning an interim city manager?
Yes.
Is it seconded?
Second.
Okay. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay, so we'll table that. All right. Next is request approval resolution 2019-07 to designate city council liaison to Housing Commission. Is Councilmember Brown had requested to be on the agenda. She's not here. If someone else is prepared to speak to that, make a motion.
I suggest we not, Mr. Mayor, I suggest we not do that.
Okay, so your motion, you make a motion not to assign?
Yes.
Okay, is there a second?
So
Okay. Further discussion? Otherwise, the motion before the council is not to assign a council member liaison. City Attorney Hartness.
So what's on the agenda is approval of the resolution, so.
So do we need to make a motion to approve it and then vote against it at those that wish to?
No, you could just not take it up, right? You could just not, they'll pass this agenda item, right?
If it's the council's inclination, since this was the request of Councilwoman Brown, and the council wants her to speak to this particular issue, you would probably, the best thing, and I hate to do this 3 times in a row, but you would probably table it, unless you feel like you can take it up tonight.
Councilmember Spicer.
Thank you, Mayor. I make a motion that we table the matter with regard to a city council designate me to the Albion Housing Commission to a future date when Councilwoman Brown, who asked to have this on the agenda, can speak to it.
Okay. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, all those in favor of tabling this item, say aye. Aye. Okay, we'll table this item. All right. Item D, request approval resolution 2019-08 to approve agreement for Moore and Brugnick for professional and consulting services for the city water system. The proposal is, the resolution and the language and explanation is in the packet. Yes, okay, sir, would you please enlighten us?
Yes, I'll try my best. I have a letter from the Department of Environmental Quality dated February 6th. that we are in violation of not having an asset management program for our water treatment system or our water service. In order to get ourselves off of that compliance issue, we need to have this, according to the letter, done by March 31st, which is impossible. I have asked them to extend that, let them know that I would be talking to council tonight and asking for what's called an asset management plan be done by Moore and Brugier. It's a pretty exhaustive process. It's going to take a couple of months minimally to do. Basically, what you look at in an asset management plan is you're looking at all of your water assets, your pumps, your pipes, your valves, everything. You're looking at the economic life of those, which takes an engineering firm to be able to do, the likelihood of failure, the critical value placed on each asset as to its failure, and then it's assigned a number. We don't have that currently, and we need to get that done so that we can be in compliance at our water system. So what I'm asking for in the resolution is to approve a contract with Moore and Brugier to supply us with an asset management plan that incorporates a number of different issues, but the biggest one being the creation of an asset management plan that's approvable by the DEQ. The cost of that is not to exceed $41,500. We also, to help us with that, the Redevelopment Ready Communities has offered to grant us $9,800 to offset the expense that would be attributable to the water department. You'll notice on some of the, on their proposal, they have it split out for us as to where those funds would come from. The water fund would be responsible for $31,300. Street fund, you kind of maybe wonder why street fund would even be in there. With the upcoming lead and copper rules that are coming out, we are required to identify and do a lot of different things with lead services that this asset management plan will be a part of. We also have North Street and Irwin Avenue that are being looked at as being scheduled to be redone this summer, and we need to know what we have there and what we need to do. So that's why some of this can be coming out of the street funds. And then as well with wastewater, while we're in the streets, we do need to finish up a little bit on stormwater and the stormwater tasks that were left over from the SAW grant. So we're trying to wrap a lot of things up, and that's what I'm here to try to explain the best I can. Okay. So any questions?
Questions from council? If not, may I have a motion to approve this resolution?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Okay. If you would call the roll.
Councilmember Reed. Spicer.
Yes.
Williamson.
Yes.
Clark.
Yes.
And Mayor Atchison.
Yes. Okay, it is approved.
Okay, thank you, and I will be in contact with the state of Michigan on DEQ tomorrow and let them know that our council has approved that and they're waiting for that response. So thank you very much.
Okay. Next item on the agenda is discussion and approval of the fair housing policy. I know it's in the packet. I'm not sure if someone is, if this is a requirement, is where this came from as part of the Peabody project, or this is something? Okay, because, go ahead.
I don't know a lot about this. I do know that both these next two items on the agenda are requirements for the MEDC grants that we've been getting, and we need to adopt these to be able to continue with MEDC and the grants opportunities that we get.
Okay, thank you. It's been in the package, and I know I've taken the opportunity to read it and feel I understand it. Are there any other further questions by council? If not, if we can have a motion to approve.
So moved.
Seconded. Is there any further discussion? Okay. If not, those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Okay, passes. Okay. The next item is discussion approval of economic opportunities policy for Section 3 covered contracts. Okay. Chief, do you wish to?
This is not the
Another
exact same
one.
thing, but it's another policy
Right.
required to have for the MEDC contract, or grants that we've been getting. Something that we probably should have adopted a while ago, but it helps with the closeout of the grant that we discussed
Okay,
earlier.
that's what I thought. Okay. May I have a motion to approve the approval of the economic opportunities policy for Section 3 covered contracts?
So moved.
Support?
Second.
Second. Further questions or discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, it is approved. Okay. Item G's been removed from the agenda. Discussion of economic development initiatives. Next to our mine, I'll make these relatively short, just to apprise my fellow council members and community that what I'm going to ask, and it'll be on the agenda for next, is to ask other council members to come forward or bring forward if they have additional initiatives they wish to prioritize and put forward specific initiatives for economic development. The things that I'm working on and pursuing is to make sure the city is emphasizing and prioritizing economic development along Austin Avenue and Eaton Avenue, and the pathway that we're going to pursue to see what options we have and what we can do is we have formed a council subcommittee for Corridor Improvement Authority, and we have a kickoff meeting tomorrow evening. And again, the council members on that is Councilmember Clark, Councilmember Reed, and myself. And so we'll move forward with that. Hopefully, the focus is to take a good hard look and base it on data and determine what is the best way forward for the city to proceed to prioritize and try to jumpstart some economic development in that corridor, L-shaped corridor. Second item is the emphasize and prioritize promotion of housing and neighborhood improvements to expand and increase our tax base to help fill the gap with housing needs, which we spoke about earlier this evening, and facilitate blight removal in residential areas and neighborhoods. And one of the things that we have scheduled is first thing tomorrow morning, myself and the village manager from Homer, Mr. Kale, are meeting with the city manager for Marshall. Marshall is pursuing, and I think they already do have in place, a neighborhood improvement authority, which is another tax increment capture financing, and they're moving forward with that. And through that process, they're bringing in one, if not two different housing developers, and I don't have the dates on when they're going to break ground, but when I found out that they're already doing it, both Mr. Kale and myself were very interested, and so they're going to share with us and make us smarter, and we're going to look into it. And that what I hope and what I think will come out of that is we'll probably put together an advisory committee or another subcommittee to figure out how best to do that, something similar here. And there's the Residential Improvement Authority and Neighborhood Improvement Authority, and frankly, at this point, I don't really understand the difference between the two. They may have different advantages, pros and cons of each, and so we'll take a look at that. Again, we'll make a deep dive, very much based on data, with the voice of the community, and figure out if that is a good tool that we can use. And we did have a meeting over at the Economic Development Corporation today, and that came up, and there are some ideas and some people that are interested in actually going forward with housing developments here, and it's really tangible, and I think it is something we're going to be able to see within the next 8 months. It's kind of what my look at it is. And then the next item on that is for economic development. We're going to do something to prioritize and, again, emphasize increased child care capacity in Albion. And I don't know of any improvement authorities that would specifically apply to that, but I'm going to look to pull together some experts and some people hear from Albion and see what ideas we can come up with. It's one of the things that we have a shortage of that hinders our workforce. And it's hard to convince people to get into the labor market if almost every penny that they make ends up going for child care. And so we're going to have to come up with some creative solutions, but it's something that's desperately needed to address that gap. So that's it for economic development initiatives. What I am going to put it on the agenda, either the next meeting or the one after, and I would really encourage every council member to think of specific ideas, not just needs, but specific ideas, and how to pursue that. And let's all share and come up with some things that we can get behind and work to improve our situation here. Last item on there is just the discussion of City of Albion public relations, and for a variety of reasons, we are kind of suffering in the public eye. Much of it is self-induced. I think, with the exception of Ms. Clark, who has only been on the council for a reasonably short period of time, is working diligently to bring us together, and I greatly appreciate it. Personally, thank you for that. And for those of you that have great parents and great grandparents and can remember very effective teachers that knew how to look you in the eye and speak truth bluntly, and and encourage people to act as adults and focus on the city's business, and I thank you for that. And I think you're very effective at that. So the public relations, just a reminder that we ought to, up here as members, elected officials for our city, we should be the biggest champions for this city. This is a great city. There is so much going on. There is such a community spirit. People, I mean, we saw that tonight when Councilmember Reed, when they presented you with that check just almost spontaneously. And it's just, this is an amazing place. And we all could do better than we have done, and there's great things in store for this city. We just need to figure out how to focus and move forward. Okay. So last thing I would remind that we have somebody who is the voice for the city that speaks on behalf of the city, and that is the city manager. And at present, that's our great public servant, our chief of public safety. And again, I thank you for the great job that you do. And being willing to step up and do that. And then for most things, to speak on behalf of the council falls on the shoulders of the mayor, and I attempt to do a good job, and when I don't, take me to task. Okay, future agenda items, as I mentioned, they'll perhaps on the next agenda item, will be please come to the table with initiatives and ideas. Councilmember Hartnett.
Oh, we got promoted.
Well, we think of you as great. Okay, my apologies. City Attorney Hartnett. You wouldn't want the job, I know. Okay.
All three items that we tabled tonight.
Yes.
Will need to come back, and then also I will have the new marijuana ordinance, the one that has nothing to do with facilities. It has to do with basically like a criminal marijuana ordinance.
Okay.
That'll bring us in line with state statute.
You got that. Okay. Other council members have future agenda items? If not, we'll go into the public comments. Individuals wishing to address the council, and the topic is what you choose to. Oh, I'm sorry. Councilmember Spicer.
Just quickly, I just wanted to remind Dr. Tracy that we are still waiting a date and time to get together to discuss the rental service. Okay, so that we can bring council up to speed. Thank you.
Okay, public comments. Please come forward, state your name and address, and I'd ask everybody to be mindful and respectful in public comments. Mr. Brown.
Doing my best not to talk too much here, but just a couple of things. So there was mention of a subcommittee. I've been at the last couple of meetings. Was there a motion or resolution introduced to establish that? So I think that might need to be done if that wasn't, because I don't recall that being done in a meeting. The Corridor Improvement Authority, so I read the state statute, and it seems like it's set up like a DDA. So a couple of the questions that I would like ask council to consider with that is what the effect on the city's tax base would be, because when we have tax increment districts, some of the money, the city's property tax money is kind of siphoned off. So that would be something that I think would be worthwhile to get an assessment from Director Mead. And then the board composition, like a DDA, it would have to be filled with those with either property ownership interest or connection to property ownership interest, and especially the fact that, one of the things I recognized during my tenure is that it was very hard to get a broad swath of people on boards in terms of representation from the various precincts, especially in Precinct 1. So I think that that's something that, when it comes appointment, that's going to be probably maybe 5 to 9 seats that are completely new appointments. So we want to make sure that the people who are being appointed have, if it's that corridor between Austin and Eaton, that there's some a good amount of appointments from that area. And then just a parliamentary note, because I've noticed it for a couple of meetings, the charter actually explicitly states in section 6.5I that votes are supposed to be taken on yes and no. So I know there's a verbal thing with, aye, but it actually says yes or no votes. So hopefully that can be fixed going forward. So thank you.
Are there further public comments?
Wanda Kemp, 703 Valhalla Drive. I just want to say I'm proud of you guys. I just want to say I'm proud of you. Sometimes we come up and we condemn, and I don't think I've actually condemned, but express disappointment. So you can't express disappointment without giving praise. So I just wanted to take time and give you guys praise, and I hope you keep moving forward like I've seen tonight. Thank you, Miss Council Lady Clark, for being that voice of, how would I say that? Constructive criticism, I'm sorry, because that can be good. So just keep working together as a team. This is beautiful.
Okay. Further public comments?
Good evening, members of the council. I'm Bruce Johnson, 509 Lynn Street. I'm an elder at the church New Hope Worship Center. We're having the Party in the Park event on June 22nd. Thank you for approving that. It's going to be a lot of fun and a good time. I did have a question. We filed and paid the $100 per pavilion fee, and then last week we voted to reduce that to the previous rate for last year. So I'm just curious.
Let's let him finish.
So I'm just curious what the standing is with that. If it is what it is, that's fine. But if something can happen that would help us with the budget of our project, I'd appreciate it. So
okay.
Thank you. Tom Mead, the finance director, is in the back room there. If you want to talk to him about that, he could probably assist you.
Are there further public comments? Okay. We'll do mayor and council member comments. I'll save mine to last. We'll go around.
Did you want to do a city manager?
I am so sorry, Chief. I read it. It was great. Please. City manager's report. It's an excellent report.
Well, I'm not going to read the whole thing. I'm just going over the first paragraph. It was a pleasure. On Saturday night, my wife and I were able to attend the American Council on Engineering Companies of Michigan Engineering and Surveying Excellence Awards. Doesn't sound like a good time, but it wasn't bad, actually. The City of Albion, along with Fleece and Vanderbrink Engineering, received the 2019 Honorable Conceptor Award for surveying based on the capital improvement plan created from a survey of our wastewater system. This is the second highest award given by the organization. I was able to accept the award on behalf of the City of Albion, and Fleece and Vanderbrink were also awarded the 2019 Michigan Large Firm of the Year. So, and this is the award sitting here on the mayor's desk. So.
Beautiful. Thank you.
I'm done.
Okay. Is our county commissioner here? He was earlier. Okay. All right. So now we will go to mayor and council member comments, and we will go in sequence. Ms. Precinct 1. Do you have comments this evening? No. Okay. Councilmember two. You have comments?
I do, because I promised someone I would say something tonight. I had a really great discussion with a couple of the community members this weekend from last Friday's meeting, and what they all suggested is that this community is going to need, after we get through this, or hopefully when this tumultuous period ends, there is an end to it, we hope, in the city. There's going to be some healing that is needed in this community to try to restore some faith and trust back in the leadership in this community, and also to kind of build up leadership behind all of us. And so I promised many members of the community that I would help lead the way with that by providing that platform through my space on City Council. So I'm going to continue to do that over the next year. Hopefully all of the mess that we're in will be over soon, and we'll be able to move on to a better phase in the city of Albion. So, and I also wanted to say, as one of the original conceptors of the idea of the clinic in Albion with Oakland Hospital way back in my days at Star Commonwealth. I think we've all worked at Star Commonwealth in Albion at some point. I'm really excited about the clinic that's open, the after-hours care, and all of the work that Oakland is doing in this community to make this place so much better, healthier, access to healthcare easier, and I think we need to continue to praise them and keep them as our hospital and medical group here. So thank you. I yield.
Okay.
I'd
Councilmember
like
Reed.
to announce again that on the 12th of this month at Ludington at 5:30, the County Land Bank is going to be here for anybody who wants to. They're going to make a presentation on properties around Albion where they've taken down the condemned homes and side lots and things like this, and it's going to be really, really nice. So please come and meet us at the Ludington on the 12th at 5:30 to 7.
Okay. So I'll respond to a couple of the
I'm
public.
sorry, it's from 6 until 7:30. I knew I was an hour and a half, from 6 until 7:30 at the Ludington. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Actually, I thought it was later than that,
I
but
got so many meetings.
yes, you do. Okay, so the Mr. Brown, thank you for your comments. I think if you go look, and if you give me your email address, I'll even send you a copy of the memorandum that outlines the duties and what is going to be looked at and what the subcommittee for the Corridor Improvement Authority is. If you'd like, I'll send you a copy of that. Every issue that you raised is covered in there, specifically the impact on tax dollars, the inclusion of residents from the affected precincts, and there is a typographical error in that memorandum, and it says precincts, and what it should say is Austin Avenue and Eaton Avenue, not specifically Precinct 1 or Precinct 2 as far as residents, but all those items that you mentioned are addressed in there. And the requirement for a resolution, I don't believe that's required. We didn't do it in this case. If other council members believe that we need to have a resolution to do that, this is not a standing committee, we certainly could do that. But I don't believe it's required, and therefore we didn't. And Ms. Kemp, I think the word that you were searching for is maturity. Very mature and seasoned, good, logical thinking, and I think that's about it. I really appreciate everyone's positive comments, and I appreciate everybody showing up and sticking it out as long as you all did. I thank you. It's incumbent on everybody to be involved in our government, and I really do appreciate it. So, last thing, tomorrow evening from 7 to 8 over at Books and Brew, I'll be there. If there's follow-up questions or stuff that wasn't on the meeting agenda tonight or anything else you want to speak at, we'll be over there, and we'll provide some food for you. And if there's no other comments, if I can have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Oh, I am so sorry. I just get going and we just want to get to it. Okay. May we have a motion to excuse Councilmember Brown? She did let us know that she was ill and wouldn't be here. Is there a motion? Okay, seconded? Okay, all those in favor say yes. Yes. Opposed? Okay. She is excused. Now may I have a motion to adjourn?
Second.
All those in favor say yes. Yes. Okay, we are adjourned. Oh, okay. Okay. All right. Yeah.
pick the lock for her.
Okay. That's a good thing to keep in mind.
You guys feel secure now. I know, with a milk
Okay.
container.
All right.
Yeah, I know.
Okay.
Well, it wasn't, the deadbolt wasn't on, it was just the.
Chief, my apologies. I know you didn't think it didn't get slided because I skipped over it. I just,
I'm changing
you
my
know,
locks.
I can't see.
That wasn't a problem.
It's an excellent report, by the way. No, I know. Chelsea, thank you very much. Appreciate it. Water. Hello. No, ma'am, I have. Thank you very much. So what grade do I get for tonight? C? Gonna be okay. Oh, I know we're gonna get that one. Some sort of terms, and it would protect the city, so they'll do that. That's all it is. That's all.